The screen flips, and suddenly Madeline shares pregnancy news. And everything tilts. A new life enters the chat, and fear rushes in, right behind love. Then the messages from his mother surface, sharp words sent towards Sheena, words full of panic and control. One reveal, one set of messages. The balance inside this relationship shifts in seconds. People cheer, others freeze, nobody breathes the same way after. This moment feels sweet on the surface. Baby news often sells hope. Underneath, tension hums. Pregnancy changes leverage. Pregnancy changes tone. Pregnancy pulls family opinions from the shadows. On screen, reactions feel split between joy and alarm. Off screen, silence speaks louder than celebration. Timing feels loud. Why now? Why during pressure? Why when trust already looked thin? Madeline looks emotional, overwhelmed and guarded. Body language shows joy mixed with worry. In my opinion, joy fights fear here. Sheena stays measured. Words slow down. Pauses stretch longer. Silence lands heavier. Viewers miss those pauses on first watch. Those pauses tell a story without speech. Silence often hides calculation or shock. Both options carry weight. Then his mother enters through text. Not quietly, not gently. Messages land with force. Concern masks control. Fear masks blame. Parents often panic around surprise pregnancies, especially across borders. Concern feels human. Tone still matters. Timing still matters. Public pressure multiplies private stress. One message reframes everything. Love stops feeling private. Power enters the room. Pause here, because this single moment changes how every earlier scene reads, and many viewers miss this shift on first watch. People rush toward sides. Some defend Madeline, some defend Sheena, some defend a mother protecting a son. Nobody wins during a pile-on. Patterns matter more than sides. Pregnancy during instability raises stakes. Family interference raises stakes again. Visa stress lurks nearby without needing mention. Pressure stacks quietly. Watch who speaks and who stays quiet. Watch who reassures and who absorbs tension. Watch who gains influence from pregnancy news. Watch who loses space. On screen, celebration feels rushed. Underneath, anxiety grows roots. Viewers sense something off, even without words. Public reaction explodes fast. Online chatter swings between excitement and alarm. Many cheer new beginnings. Others worry for emotional safety. Both reactions hold truth. Pregnancy never fixes cracks. Pregnancy shines light on cracks. Messages from parents often expose control struggles already present. Stay with this thought, because the next reaction flips sympathy in an unexpected direction and forces a hard rethink. This pregnancy looks like protection to some eyes. This pregnancy looks like a trap to others. Love sits in the middle, squeezed by fear, control, and expectation. So ask honestly, does this pregnancy shield anyone? Or does this pregnancy tighten the cage around everyone involved? Before this shock landed, their story already carried tension. From the start, Madeline and Sheena moved fast, faster than comfort, faster than trust usually forms. Early scenes showed affection mixed with uncertainty. Smiles came easy, answers did not. Conversations circled the same worries. Money, distance, family approval. None of those issues appeared overnight. They lived there quietly. Madeline often showed enthusiasm with a nervous edge. She leaned into the idea of commitment while asking for reassurance at the same time. That push and pull felt familiar. Many people want certainty without confrontation. Sheena responded with calm restraint, sometimes supportive, sometimes distant. Silence filled gaps where clarity should live. On first watch, that quiet read as maturity. On second watch, it reads as avoidance. Family presence hovered early too. Calls home carried weight. Opinions traveled across borders quickly. Advice blurred into pressure. Support slipped into supervision. These moments felt small then. They do not feel small now. Family voices always shape choices in these relationships. The difference sits in how loud those voices become when stress hits. Trust wobbled before pregnancy news ever surfaced. Past disagreements showed mismatched expectations. Madeline asked questions directly. Sheena answered carefully. Humor softened edges. A joke here, a shrug there. Viewers laughed. Underneath, those laughs masked discomfort. Light humor works until it stops working. Remember this stretch of calm, because it hides patterns that only make sense after the shock hits. Watch their body language in earlier scenes. Madeline leaned forward, searching faces. Sheena leaned back, conserving energy. Neither choice signals villainy. Both signal different emotional speeds. Relationships struggle when speed mismatches. Add distance. Add culture. Add family. Pressure builds quietly. Small red flags appeared without sirens. Delayed replies, soft promises, vague plans. None screamed disaster. Together they formed a pattern. People miss patterns when they watch scenes in isolation. Patterns reveal themselves only when tension spikes. Pregnancy acts like a spotlight. Viewers often ask why these couples ignore warning signs. The answer feels simple: hope. Hope blurs edges. Hope convinces people tomorrow will solve today. Madeline hoped reassurance would arrive with time. Sheena hoped stability would arrive without conflict. Both hoped wrong things at the wrong moments. Keep this in mind, because what looked harmless then starts to feel loaded now. Family dynamics also shaped early trust. Parental opinions influenced tone. Approval felt conditional. Disapproval felt looming. No one addressed it head on. Silence acted as a temporary truce. Truces expire under stress. When you rewind earlier arguments now, pregnancy reframes everything. A comment about timing feels sharper. A pause feels heavier. A joke feels defensive. What once sounded casual now carries consequence. Every unresolved issue gains weight. Every avoided conversation demands payment. And here is the shift. Pregnancy does not add new problems. Pregnancy reveals old ones. Suddenly, those early scenes stop feeling random. They feel like warnings whispered too softly to hear until now. Madeline's behavior shifts once pregnancy enters the picture. Watch her eyes. They scan faces for reassurance. Her voice tightens, then softens. She smiles, then swallows. Stress shows up in the body before words catch up. She leans in during conversations, seeking alignment. She repeats points, not to argue, but to feel heard. That repetition often signals fear of being left behind. Attachment shows itself through urgency. She wants confirmation, not debate. When pressure rises, Madeline fills silence quickly. She talks through nerves. She explains feelings in real time. Viewers sometimes read this as neediness. Another read fits better. She fears gaps. Gaps leave room for doubt. Doubt threatens security. Pregnancy amplifies that fear. Stakes rise overnight. Every response feels heavier. Every pause feels louder. Her emotional energy stays visible. She processes out loud. She seeks connection through conversation. That approach carries risk. In high-stress moments, vulnerability invites comfort or rejection. Either outcome cuts deep. Madeline keeps choosing openness, even when results disappoint. That choice shows courage and exposure at the same time. Hold this image of her leaning forward, because the contrast matters more than the words spoken next. Now shift to Sheena. Watch the restraint. She listens. She pauses. Silence becomes her shield. In calm moments, restraint reads steady. Under pressure, restraint reads distant. Silence communicates many things. It communicates thinking. It communicates overwhelm. It communicates protection. It also communicates withdrawal. Viewers fill silence with assumptions. Silence invites projection. Sheena's reactions stay measured. Her posture stays controlled. She avoids escalation. That approach reduces conflict short term. Long term, unresolved tension grows teeth. Silence does not equal peace. Silence delays collision. Pregnancy accelerates timelines, delays lose value. A fair counterpoint matters here. Silence sometimes signals care. Some people process internally before speaking. Some people choose calm over chaos. That choice deserves respect. Emotional speed differs across personalities and cultures. Not everyone narrates feelings out loud. Silence does not equal indifference. At the same time, silence during fear leaves the other person alone with anxiety. When one partner externalizes stress and the other internalizes it, misalignment grows. Neither person acts wrong. The mismatch causes friction. Stay with this tension, because this dynamic invites a third voice into the relationship. Madeline's openness and Sheena's restraint collide under pressure. Pregnancy sharpens that collision. Both women navigate fear differently. One seeks closeness through words. The other seeks safety through space. Without translation, each feels misunderstood. This sets the stage for outside influence. When communication stalls, others speak louder. Family opinions rush into silence. Advice fills gaps left by quiet moments. Boundaries blur when couples pause instead of clarify. And this brings the mother back into focus. She does not enter randomly. She steps into a vacuum. Silence invites commentary. Fear invites control. What looked like background noise earlier starts sounding like direction. When couples struggle to hear each other, someone else always volunteers to speak. Once pregnancy news lands, power dynamics stop hiding. Visa pressure already hovered in the background. Distance always adds weight. One person holds mobility, the other holds time. Add pregnancy and timelines collapse. Decisions accelerate whether people feel ready or not. This does not mean intent turns dark. It means leverage shifts. Financial dependence sits close to this pressure. Travel costs, living plans, medical care. None stay abstract once a baby enters the picture. Money stops feeling optional. Whoever controls resources gains influence, even without asking for it. That influence changes conversations. Tone shifts. Requests sound like expectations. Silence starts to cost more. Pregnancy often looks empowering in public. Announcements bring congratulations. Support floods in. People speak about strength and blessing. Privately, vulnerability increases. Bodies change. Emotions spike. Stability matters more than pride. The person carrying the pregnancy needs reassurance, consistency, and protection. Power looks different behind closed doors. In my opinion, timing holds weight here. Pregnancy arrives during unresolved tension. Trust already wobbled. Family opinions already pressed in. Visa timelines already stressed patience. None of these issues caused the pregnancy. Pregnancy magnifies each one. A magnifier does not invent flaws. It enlarges them. Pause on this point, because power shifts often hide behind good news and many viewers miss the switch. Leverage rarely announces itself. It sneaks in through logistics. Who decides where to live? Who controls documents? Who pays for what? Who reassures whom? These details shape control without anyone saying the word. When pregnancy joins the mix, choices narrow. Options shrink. Pressure grows. This does not place blame on one person. Systems create imbalance too. Immigration rules favor citizens. Distance favors stability. Family networks favor familiarity. Pregnancy adds urgency. People react within systems they did not design. Reaction still matters. Awareness still matters. Public reactions complicate things further. Fans cheer or panic. Families advise or warn. Everyone speaks at once. The couple hears noise instead of clarity. When noise grows loud, the strongest voice often wins by default. Strength does not always equal wisdom. Madeline's vulnerability increases as her body carries more responsibility. Sheena's leverage increases as timelines tighten. Neither role feels comfortable. Both roles feel exposed. Power imbalances strain even strong relationships. Here, cracks already existed. Hold on to this imbalance, because one unseen message pushes control into plain sight and changes the moral weight of the situation. The messages shown so far hint at concern mixed with authority, fear mixed with instruction. Those messages already affect behavior. Words shape choices. Tone shapes trust. Yet the harshest messages remain unexamined. What has been addressed barely scratches the surface. What stays unread holds the sharpest edge. The moment those messages hit, the room changed, not because they were long or complicated, but because of how they landed. Short sentences, sharp commands, warnings disguised as concern. Every notification felt like it carried weight. Timing made it worse. Madeline's news had barely settled, and suddenly her phone buzzed again. Tone and timing collided. Panic disguised as advice started to shape decisions. Reading them, it is impossible not to feel the pressure. Every line pressed, nudged, or demanded a reaction. Be careful turns into do what I say. Think carefully sounds more like I already decided. That is the tricky thing about family interference. Concern often wears the costume of control. The lines blur. People act cautiously, trying not to disappoint while managing fear. The mother's messages did not just arrive, they landed with authority. And once authority lands, it changes conversation. It changes the options visible to everyone involved. You can see Madeline's hesitation on screen, tiny pauses, quick glances at her phone, an almost imperceptible shift in body language. Stress tightens shoulders. Choices feel smaller. Sheena's reaction is quieter, but no less significant. Silence can signal shock, disagreement, or calculation. Here, it does all three at once. It leaves viewers asking, who speaks first when tension doubles in size overnight? Who acts, and who holds back? A fair counterpoint exists. A parent's reaction to news of pregnancy is rarely simple. Fear and love coexist. Worry is natural. Messages meant to protect can arrive heavy-handed because the stakes feel enormous. After all, a parent has every reason to fear mistakes or heartbreak. But weight does not excuse tone. Concern delivered as command can suffocate, not protect. It sets up a power struggle disguised as support, and the people caught in the middle often pay the emotional cost. On screen, the contrast is clear. Madeline reads, absorbs, hesitates. Sheena waits, calculates, considers. The camera catches tension between what is said and what is felt. Viewers see how a single voice can redirect emotions, decisions, even trust. Family interference rarely announces itself as a takeover. Instead, it whispers caution. It nudges direction. It suggests urgency. And urgency becomes pressure. Take a moment to realize how this changes the whole story so far, because what felt like private drama suddenly becomes public and strategic. The punchlines write themselves. Behavior matters more than words. A message can protect or manipulate. Advice can comfort or control. Timing makes the difference. A single note sent at the wrong moment can rewrite the rhythm of a relationship. On screen, nothing is fabricated. Every glance, pause, and reaction builds a layered narrative about influence. By the midpoint, viewers are forced to confront a larger question. Who is responsible when relationships crack under family pressure? The mother's intent might be love, but the impact carries power. One person's fear reshapes another's decisions. One set of messages escalates stress. And somewhere in the middle, accountability becomes slippery. The real question lingers. Who bears the weight when care and control collide? The moment this episode aired, it was impossible not to notice the reactions ripple across social media. Fans immediately split into camps. One side cheered for Madeline, empathizing with her stress, her hesitation, the weight of carrying life while navigating family pressure. Another side critiqued her, questioning every pause, every unanswered message, every glance that seemed to delay action. And then there were those sitting on the fence, feeling conflicted because both women carried visible strain, and both were trapped in the same emotional tug-of-war. This storyline resonates in ways that go beyond reality TV drama. Many viewers see echoes of their own experiences, navigating relationships while managing the influence of parents, relatives, or well-meaning friends. The fear of disappointing a family member while trying to honor your own choices is something nearly everyone has felt. That tension, amplified by cameras and edited to highlight every micro-expression, feels both foreign and familiar. It triggers protective instincts, judgment, and empathy all at once. Watching these women navigate the storm, fans can't help but pick sides, but no side is purely right or wrong. The cultural undercurrent is hard to ignore. Pregnancy, family involvement, and power dynamics touch sensitive chords. Viewers react not only to what's on screen, but also to what it evokes. Memories of their own high-stakes decisions, the advice that stung, the support that came too late. This is why debates flare up so quickly online. It's not just about 90 Day Fiance, it's about how relationships operate in real life when multiple parties hold stakes, emotional or financial. Fans parsing each moment find patterns that might escape a casual watch. The timing of a message, the silence in a room, the way one person positions themselves, these become touch points for judgment and debate. Supporters see bravery and caution. Critics see hesitation or manipulation. Fence-sitters experience tension and suspense vicariously, wondering if they would act differently, wondering who really has control, and questioning whether anyone is truly free in this scenario. This is where engagement deepens. The story doesn't just unfold on screen, it unfolds inside the minds of the viewers. People relate, analyze, and emotionally invest. They relive their own moments of pressure and uncertainty. That's why comment threads explode with predictions, questions, and arguments. It validates the intensity of the narrative. Fans feel seen because the show mirrors emotional realities, even in a heightened reality TV setting. Even as things appear to settle for a moment, there's an unspoken tension lingering. Every quiet pause on screen promises that calm won't last long. The audience can sense it. Social chatter is evidence enough. This is a story that refuses to be neat. The drama doesn't disappear once messages are read or reactions noted. The emotional weight carries forward. Each reaction, each decision, each glance sets up the next eruption. Viewers are left anticipating the ripple effects, knowing that the emotional landscape is shifting constantly. And that's exactly what keeps people glued to the screen, arguing online, and wondering what will happen next. The calm feels temporary because everyone involved is still navigating a web of pressure, expectation, and fragile trust. At first, the pregnancy seemed like a shield, a moment where the chaos of family interference and relational tension could pause. It gave Madeline a visible reason to slow down, to pause arguments, to step back from confrontation. But very quickly, that shield began to feel heavier, almost like a responsibility that neither woman had fully signed up for. What looked like protection turned into pressure. Every glance, every small decision now carried more weight, because it wasn't just about them anymore. The unborn child became an unspoken factor in every choice, and with that came subtle, but relentless emotional labor. Madeline starts carrying more than anyone else realizes. She absorbs fear, anticipates judgment, and manages conversations with family that no one asked her to initiate. She becomes the mediator, the buffer, the one balancing care for herself, her partner, and now, the expectations of an extended family, who all have opinions. That stress is invisible to most viewers, but it seeps into every interaction. Meanwhile, Sheena's silence or caution shifts the dynamic. She doesn't act aggressively, but she isn't carrying the same visible emotional load. She reassures in small moments, but avoids the kind of confrontation Madeline faces daily. That imbalance becomes increasingly noticeable. It's the classic emotional labor trap. One person manages not just their own anxiety, but the anxiety of others. One person absorbs tension, smooths over friction, anticipates consequences. The other avoids conflict, sometimes out of fear, sometimes out of choice. Both approaches have consequences, but the emotional imbalance is unmistakable. What started as a pregnancy pause now functions like an invisible ledger. Every stressful moment is logged, every unspoken worry compounds, and the burden accumulates quietly. And here's the critical twist. The pressure doesn't just affect the women, it filters into every interaction. Conversations that should be simple, checking in, sharing news, discussing plans, become fraught with unspoken stakes. A delayed reply, a misread tone, a hesitant glance suddenly matters more than it ever did before. The pregnancy amplifies each micro-stress, transforming ordinary relationship friction into emotionally loaded decisions. What once might have been a minor disagreement now feels like a test of loyalty, maturity, and endurance. It's also a test of trust. Who gets heard? Who carries the weight? Who can step back without guilt? These questions hang in every scene, often unspoken but undeniably present. The viewer can feel it. The discomfort that arises when one person bears the brunt while the other appears sheltered, even unintentionally. Avoidance always invoices later, and here the invoice is looming. Every avoided argument, every silent hesitation, every careful step around family or partner adds up. Emotional debts are being tallied without ceremony, and when they come due, the consequences won't be negotiable. The pregnancy, which began as a protective force, has become a lens magnifying tension, imbalance, and unmet expectations. It raises the stakes quietly, but unmistakably, setting the stage for every confrontation that is yet to come. Every choice now carries weight, and the fallout is inevitable. I have to admit, I misread some of the energy in the early episodes. I was ready to label Madeline as overwhelmed and Sheena as detached, and for a moment that lens fit perfectly. But watching the new footage, the messages, the way both women handle these moments, it's more complicated. Madeline isn't just absorbing stress, she's asserting boundaries in ways that don't always land on camera. Sheena isn't purely passive. Her silence sometimes carries strategy, or maybe survival instinct. The lines we drew before suddenly blur. It's humbling to realize that the story we thought was straightforward, the pregnancy saves the relationship narrative, isn't linear at all. Timing, tone, and context shift everything. That mother's message that felt controlling at first glance? Viewed differently, it could be protective, anxious, or misread in the heat of the moment. This doesn't erase the tension, it just complicates it. It reminds us that human behavior, especially under stress, isn't binary. People can be both supportive and overbearing. We're seeing motives overlap, sometimes clashing, sometimes coexisting. This new angle changes how we read earlier interactions. That fight over family visits that seemed dramatic now feels like preemptive negotiation. The arguments about trust weren't just friction, they were attempts to balance fear, responsibility, and desire for autonomy. Patterns emerge only when we step back and notice them, not when we react to single scenes. And here's the kicker. Acknowledging these shifts doesn't weaken our take, it strengthens it. We're watching real emotional work unfold, not just scripted confrontation. Bias is unavoidable in commentary, and here it's visible. I liked one person's calm over another's intensity, assumed motives, predicted failure. But the narrative itself resists easy labeling. That's why revisiting judgments matters. It creates trust with you, the viewer. I'm not holding a single truth, I'm observing, interpreting, and yes, revising. And that revision reveals a deeper truth. This story isn't a straight line from conflict to resolution. It loops, curves, and spins around the same emotional points in ways that make each episode feel both familiar and unpredictable. Every shift in perspective makes prior shocks hit differently. The pregnancy announcement, the mother's urgent messages, the unspoken tension. These weren't just isolated moments. They are threads in a web, and the more context we add, the more entangled they feel. That initial gut reaction to the messages, or the silent pauses, it wasn't wrong, but it was incomplete. And in real life, incomplete understanding has consequences. Looking at it now, that shocking opening, the pregnancy bomb, the messages, feels almost different. It's not just a trigger, it's a lens revealing layered fear, hope, and strategy. This reframing doesn't soften the drama, it amplifies it. We see who is adapting, who is holding on, and who is maneuvering in ways that weren't obvious at first. What we thought was a straightforward power struggle now carries nuance, and it makes the stakes feel even higher. Watching again with this perspective, the opening shock doesn't just hit, it resonates, showing us just how fragile, complex, and human these relationships really are. By now, all the threads are tangled together: the pregnancy, the mother's messages, the shifting power between Madeline and Sheena. What looked like one explosive moment isn't a single point anymore. It's part of a chain reaction. The pregnancy that seemed like protection now feels like a spotlight. It exposes every hidden insecurity, every unsaid expectation, every subtle manipulation. The messages aren't just noise, they are a mirror of the way family and timing insert themselves into relationships, bending decisions and amplifying fear. Madeline's anxiety, Sheena's silence, the mother's insistence, they collide in ways that are both painful and fascinating. Each woman's reaction is valid in her own frame of reference. What frustrates one is survival for another. What seems controlling is sometimes care, wrapped poorly in worry. And timing makes it worse. A message sent in panic lands differently than one sent calmly. A pregnancy revealed in the middle of tension reads differently than one planned for months. The emotional context shifts the power balance more than we ever realize. We watch all of it unfold and notice patterns emerge. Boundaries get tested, responses get measured, and stress moves from private anxiety to public spectacle. Everyone is negotiating control, sometimes knowingly, sometimes unconsciously. Even small gestures carry weight. A pause, a reply, a withheld comment, they shape perception, reputation, and ultimately the emotional climate of the household. And yet, no one is entirely at fault. Behavior exists within circumstances, and circumstances are rarely clean. The emotional payoff comes in understanding this complexity. It's messy, it's uncomfortable, but it's also real. The initial shock, the tension, the drama, it all loops back into a larger rhythm of human connection, vulnerability, and fear. Watching the story with that awareness makes every gesture, every message, every silence hit harder. It's not just a show of family pressure or romantic tension, it's a portrait of how timing, emotion, and influence collide in unpredictable ways. By the end, nothing is fully settled, yet everything feels heavier. The pregnancy, the messages, the private battles, they've created a storm that can't be easily untangled. And that's the thing, there's no neat resolution waiting. The questions linger. Who is truly in control? Who is protecting? Who is pressuring? Who will bend? And who will break? Every layer feeds the next, leaving us suspended between outrage, empathy, and curiosity. The story doesn't end here, it moves forward, and every action now carries the weight of what came before. It leaves one undeniable truth in the air: every choice, every message, every silence matters, and the fallout is far from over. By now, the weight of everything, the pregnancy, the mother's messages, the quiet moments between Madeline and Sheena, has settled into something almost unbearable. It's not about who is right or wrong anymore. It's about the cost of every word, every pause, every decision made under pressure. The emotional labor, the tension, the subtle shifts in power, they accumulate quietly until suddenly the cracks are impossible to ignore. Nothing feels resolved. The family influence is still present, hovering just out of sight. The pregnancy, which once seemed like a potential shield, now carries its own burdens. Every glance, every withheld reaction, every late night text carries weight. We see the strain, the worry, the attempts to maintain calm, and we know the storm isn't over. Each character is juggling expectations, fear, and loyalty, and the fallout is still unfolding in ways the cameras can't always capture. And just when you think you've caught up, the story nudges you forward. Questions linger. Who will step up? Who will step back? What happens when private anxieties collide with public scrutiny? The answers aren't coming neatly, and that's exactly what makes watching so compelling. The tension, the uncertainty, the subtle power shifts, these are what keep the story alive. The emotional cost is visible, but the consequences are still writing themselves. Every choice leaves a mark, every silence speaks louder than words, and every message shifts the balance, quietly but decisively. We feel the exhaustion and the fear, but we also feel the anticipation of what's next. And as one chapter closes, another quietly begins. The fallout from these events is only the starting point for the next wave of drama. Relationships will be tested, loyalties questioned, and new pressures will surface, all while the same underlying questions of control, love, and timing refuse to go away. What happens when the storm returns? Who carries the weight next? And which decisions will tip the balance, for good or for worse? The answers are coming, but for now the story holds its breath, leaving us right on the edge, waiting for the next turn.